Please check the mic for her, please. Something. I don't know if it's on. Yeah.
Hold on one second, honey, because we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Can we maybe replace that mic with another mic?
Um,
Wonderful.
I'll start from the top. Here is racism in America. Hi, I'm Suktita, and I've been researching about racism. Here's what racism means. It means that you're making fun of their culture, smell, food, and their skin color. Being racist is rude. You'll make kids and people feel bad about themselves. And if you watched The Princess and the Frog lately, you'll know that Tiana was African American and her friend Lottie was American. She was the typical Disney princess. In the beginning of the movie, Tiana was a waitress, and her um, friend Lottie was just the rich girl who kind of bragged about everything she owned. Here in America, I still believe in racism. Lots of Asians, Africans, Mexican, and a lot of different people come to America. For example, I live in Rhode Island, the smallest state in America, and I live in a neighborhood that has lots of different cultures. There are Asians, Americans, Africans living all around my neighborhood, and I honestly don't mind them at all. My neighborhood is very quiet. Also, I have experienced racism. I've been one of the subjects. My name is Suktita. It's a Laotian name. In Laos, it means princess and angel in the sky. It's a really good thing, but sometimes people can say my name wrong, but that's okay. It happens. On March 28, 2016, Mina Fedior organized a rally with four friends, B, Anno, Juno, and Mila. It took place in Berkeley, California. More than 1,200 people joined them. The girls led a crowd onto a bridge across a freeway. Rallies posted signs that said, "Our Asian Community." Cars were passing below and honked in support. In my opinion, I totally support that group because I'm Asian and these days lots of different people aren't getting much respect. Stop Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, and more. My opinion is to stop Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, and more. I feel like my opinion is correct because lots of different people, like I said, aren't getting much respect nowadays. According to Nazella's article, I saw that we should stop racism, and I totally agree that we should stop racism. I feel like we should stop racism because being racist is wrong. If you're being racist about someone, you can get in serious trouble. And if you're being racist to someone, someone will probably be racist to you back because here in America, we respect each other. That's my opinion about racism. Again, I strongly believe that racial discrimination and racism is wrong and should not be tolerated in America. Never be racist. Being racist is affecting everybody. Treat people the way they want to be treated. Always treat everybody with the same respect you always get. Thank you for reading this opinion speech about racism. Bye, Suktita. Thank you and have a great day.
Good job.
For our second presentation tonight, please welcome Lily Insinsame.
Hello, I'm Liliana, and I think that child abuse should be stopped all around the world. Child abuse should be stopped because children should not be hurt for any reason. Studies show the effects of child abuse cause children to feel alone, fear, and distrust that cause depression. Children get hurt in many ways. Some are physical, such as being punched or making bruises. Other abuse can be emotional, like name-calling, and mental abuse that makes you feel worse about yourself. The effect of child abuse can last a lifetime if not stopped early in life. Kids that have anxiety, less confidence, get scared easily, or bully other students can be a few signs that a child is experiencing child abuse, which is why I think it's important for everyone to be aware of child abuse, to see the signs and stop it from happening. Child abuse I feel my opinion is correct is because in Real Life Museum of Working Culture, I was told in the past that kids as young as 5 years old and up had to do very dangerous jobs. In the factories, they had to clean their yarn maker machine. When kids did these dangerous jobs, they couldn't go to school. They worked these jobs every day and were given little money. They are now called labor laws, and it's illegal. Also, do you know girls experience more child abuse than boys? Also, every year, ch- many children die from child abuse around the world, according to article dealing with stress on New Zealand. In conclusion, these are the reasons why I feel child abuse should be stopped. It has been happening a long time and it's not safe for kids to live around. History shows us how bad child abuse has been for a long time, and no child should have to experience it ever. If we talk about it and know the signs of child abuse, we could all help it stop for future kids. Also, if we see the signs when it's happening, stop and ask if they need help. With no child abuse, every kid could go to school and become happy when they grow up. Let's make the world a better place and stop child abuse together. Thank you for listening.
Great job.
For our final presentation tonight, please welcome Sita Kabab.
Hello, my name is Sita, and today I'll be talking about racism. I know it's talked about a lot, but nothing much happens about it, and I would like to change that. Racism is a very basic topic, but still very important, especially to the people that have experienced it. Me and my family, as African American, have experienced racism and know how it feels like when people have bad things to say about your race or skin color. Recently, it has come to my attention that a lot of people have been teaching the kids to be racist. That's something that should definitely not be happening. I believe that we should teach our future kids about racism and our experiences like what Barbie did. Barbie is a plastic mouth-doll doll that has been around for more than 60 years. Now she has a message about racism that has been getting a lot of attention. You can see on Barbie's YouTube page, she and her friend appear in a short clip. In the video, she has a discussion with Nikki, a black Barbie doll. Barbie and Nikki have a competition to see who would sell more stickers. While Nikki was selling stickers, a security guard stopped her 3 times because he thought she was doing something wrong, even though she was doing the same thing as Barbie. Teaching kids and adults about racism is very important. Some people don't even know when they're being racist. That's the problem, and that's what happened to Dr. Seuss. 6 Dr. Seuss books will no longer be produced and sold. The companies that controls Dr. Seuss books said these 6 books have racist pictures in them. This is hurtful and wrong. The company said that it made the decision after listening to families, they listened to teachers, they talked with experts. The problem with these 6 books was some image looked like they were making fun of people of color. That's something kids should not be saying. Books for children should represent and support families. To have the experience of racism is very tragic. Being discriminated because your hair, looks, and skin color. Racism makes me question myself and why things have to be this way. I wonder one day what it would be like to be white and imagine how much better my life would probably be and how much chances I could have gotten. Throughout history, many people have treated Black people unfairly because of their hair. They have faced discrimination for wearing certain hairstyles. Leader in New York City said this is no longer allowed. They say it is against the law. New York already had a law against discrimination. Discrimination is unfair treatment based on a person's race, religion, or gender. City leaders say the same law also applies to hair. It is against the law to discriminate against someone because of their hairstyle. The law protects everyone, but it may especially protect people who have Black ancestries. People in this group have often had their hair criticized. For many years, other races have told Black people they should dress and style their hair in certain ways. They were pressured to fit in. Many people had to change how they look whether they liked it or not. Hairstyles are an important part of Black identity. I think racism should not be tolerated in school, home, public, or private. In summary, there should be ways to end racism like what this school did in Missouri. Anna Lacey and Robert Nelson are both guides for a school in St. Louis, Missouri. Anna Lacey is white with wavy hair and glasses. Robert Nelson is African American and has a beard. The school teachers reflect on mix of races living near the school. The school wants a balance of all races. Nicole Evan is the school's principal. She is African American and she says the school knows all races matter. So this year, students used popsicle sticks to make many Black Lives Matter signs. It is a movement to stop violence and racism against discrimination. Written by Tita.
So that concludes our presentations for the night. Thank you for the opportunity for the Coleman students to share their hopes for the world with you.
Thank you very much. Katniss, I want to congratulate you and your students for doing such a great job. Again, congratulations. If there's anyone that would like to address the school committee, please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please. Seeing and hearing none, I'll ask Dr. McGee to go through recognitions and announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have one official recognition and announcement, and I've just added one now to my list here. That's a tough act to follow. Wow. Let's give those three amazing fifth grade students a call in another round of applause. And it's very ironic that they're here tonight, and the next thing that I'm going to be announcing, which I'll get to in a second, really it dovetails. It's so impressive for students to have their voice heard, like we've had this evening, and if you notice, the writing was amazing. I mean, they're fifth graders. That was just amazing writing. You know, those of us who go around and do learning walks, and we do a lot of them, and teachers see us in their classrooms, and probably those three students have seen us in their classrooms, asking them questions and things like that. And what they've done is not easy. They've synthesized information. They've read different articles. They've put it together, and it's their own voice, and they turned it into an opinion piece. And that's higher order thinking. And that's something that we are so proud of our students at Coleman for doing that. And again, great job. Very, very proud to have you as students here in Woonsocket and at Coleman. So keep up the good work, and thank you. Yeah, let's another round of applause.
Great job.
Yes. And here's how that dovetails into my my next announcement. So I'm very proud to announce that Polarist, which is it's an aggregator of Harvard, Princeton, and MIT, and it basically is an organization. It's a website that looks at the number of students in school districts across the country, and specifically here in Rhode Island, the number of students from high schools who attend Ivy League schools, specifically those three Ivy League schools, Harvard, Princeton, and MIT. And what they did is they've taken from 2018 until 2020. And I'm very proud. I'm gonna just list the top three schools in the state of Rhode Island who have sent students to those three schools. So number one in the state, we have Barrington High School. You know, they've sent 2 students to Harvard, and they've sent 3 students on to Princeton. So they've matriculated. So those students were fifth graders once, and I bet they didn't write as eloquently as these 3 students have written. But anyway, that's number one. Number 2 in the state of Rhode Island, there's a tie for number 2. And the first school, I'm just going to say, is the Wheeler School in Providence. And they've sent 2 students to Harvard, and 1 to Princeton, and 1 to MIT. And tied for second in the state of Rhode Island is Woonsocket High School, who have, yes.
Yeah.
From 2018 to 2020, Woonsocket High School has sent 3 students to Harvard and 1 to Princeton. And I'm going to list just a few other schools in the state that haven't sent as many students to those Ivy League schools. Moses Brown, St. George's, LaSalle, Classical, South Kingstown, Narragansett. The list goes on and on. There are over 39 high schools when you look at charter schools in the state of Rhode Island. And I think we have a lot of things to be proud of here in Woonsocket, and we don't always acknowledge the things that we do really, really well. Unfortunately, the news picks up on some of the negatives. And here in Woonsocket, that's a small fraction. There are so many good things happening in the Woonsocket schools, and there are so many amazing students as exhibited here tonight, that we should be really, really proud of this school system, of our students, our families, our teachers, our administrators. Tied for number 2 in the state for sending high school students to those 3 Ivy League schools is amazing. So let's give the high school and our students in this district another round of applause. That's all I have this evening, Mr. Chairman.
That's plenty. And again, congratulations. Well done. You're well on your way. You were all impressive in your speeches. Outstanding. Next,
Chairman,
Chair?
can I have a chance to say something?
you more than a chance.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on the kids, and I just want to congratulate you students for standing up, giving the speech. Very, very difficult to do that. But even more than that, I want to thank you for offering all of us an education. Right? You are educating us on these important social topics. And I think it's very important in our society today to listen. And hopefully your voices that you bring to bear tonight and beyond will allow the opportunity for all of us to listen better and to learn better. So I want to thank you for what you offered tonight.
Well said. Mrs. Costa.
Well, I just kind of want to piggyback off of that as well. I just want to say it does take a certain level of bravery and courage to be able to get up there and speak in front of people. And I hope that all 3 of you keep going and encourage others to be just like you. I'm very, very proud of you at your age. And I just hope that you guys continue to keep going. And I would love to see what your senior speeches are going to be.
Anyone else? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the recognitions and announcements. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we've got some minutes to approve. So first, I'll make a motion to approve the February 16, 2022 special closed meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Burke. Any corrections, amendments? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to approve the February 16, 2022 special open meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Any corrections? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to approve the February 23rd, 2022 closed meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Any corrections? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Finally, I'll make a motion to approve the February 23rd, 2022 open meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Burke. Any corrections? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, we'll go on to the consent agenda, and I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Does any committee member want to take anything out of order and speak about anything? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Dr. McGee, I'll now ask you to give us your superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this evening, I'm going to speak briefly on personnel matters. So from the last school committee meeting until this evening, we have hired a social worker, full-time social worker at the Pothier Citizens Campus, in addition to a floater custodian for the district, as well as an early childhood paraprofessional for Pothier Elementary. And finally, a second shift custodian at Coleman, who will be working half time at Coleman and the Career Center. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have this evening.
Any comments for the superintendent? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the superintendent's report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leclerc and Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll go into subcommittee reports, and I'll ask Mrs. Kepiscus to give us the CLAC update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The CLAC met on March 3rd, 2022. The meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. Under old business, members were reminded no parent support group meetings due to COVID. We'll revisit that decision at the beginning of the 22-23 school year. Parents were also reminded that Survey Works remains open until March 31st, 2022, and is an important way for staff, students, and parents to get their voices heard. Under new business, a question was asked as to whether or not the procedural safeguards and CLAC brochures are being offered at every IEP meeting. Ms. Morell advised that the brochure is provided to each IEP student's family at the beginning of the school year and available at each meeting and school. Procedural safeguards are at least offered at every meeting, except perhaps at meetings where they've come close in time to another one where they were previously offered, but she'll discuss that with the LEAs. Ms. Morell shared with us the happy news that Woonsocket Education Department will be receiving additional funds under ARP for our pre-K and our K-12 students, and she's asking for input on supports which might benefit our students and their educators. She's already looking at flex seating, interactive boards in pre-K and K classrooms, iPads with cases for our pre-K classrooms, supplemental materials for our resource teachers and self-contained rooms, as well as OT, PT, and SLP materials, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech and language pathology. I hate when people use those and don't explain what they are. The funds cannot be used for staff, but if you have any ideas or suggestions, please share them with Ms. Morell via her school email. At that time, the meeting was turned over for a presentation by Mike Burke, an administrator at DCYF, who presented on the shift of DCYF's model from crisis response, which features child removal, to prevention and intervention in conjunction with its community partners. There was a long presentation. Anybody who's interested in the minutes on it, I'd be happy to share them with you. Just get in touch with me and I can email them to you. And I can also email you the PowerPoint that you shared with us. The important thing to remember is DCYF now still has its hotline to report abuse, which is 1-800-RI-CHILD. But now there's a new number, 888-RI-FAMILY, which is designed to provide support and response by connecting families with other services in the community to which anyone can call, which does not automatically trigger an investigation or the opening of a file. It's just an intent to provide guidance to parents to help them navigate the system when they're in need of help. We are in Woonsocket, our agency is typically Community Care Alliance, which is our community mental health center. This can also be done through Project Aware. The presenter also spoke to us about, on July 16th, 2022, a new national suicide prevention and mental health crisis lifeline is anticipated to launch. It's going to act like 911. Those in crisis or at risk can dial 988 nationwide to be connected to help. Dr. McGee reminded all that masks become optional for all staff and students in our schools and on our buses effective March 7th. Masks are still required on public transportation, including RIPTA, which many of our students use. He also advised that the building construction team was scheduled to meet with the governor this past week, the week of our meeting, but that about the proposed ask for the construction of new schools. But the meeting was rescheduled at the request of the governor to March 16th. The team will use the additional time to meet with local General Assembly members in an effort to provide a unified front of seeking these funds as they meet with the governor. Special Ed Director Ms. Morell reminded us of the ARP funds that she previously discussed, and moved on to discuss the occupational therapist 6-week program of support that will be provided to help our K-2 students in their classrooms with handwriting and other fine motor skills that were lost or not developed much during remote learning. This will be offered to all students, not just those with IEPs. I expressed a concern about the safety of our medically fragile students with the dropping of the mask mandate, and Ms. Morell advised that many of those same students have been unable to wear masks during this time anyway due to their own medical conditions, and that the same universal precautions that have been taken for the entire COVID period will continue to be taken in all classrooms, especially in those housing our at-risk students. The next meeting is on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. virtually. If you need the link, please contact me via email and I'd be happy to add you to the list. At that meeting, we'll have presenters from the Autism Project regarding their available programs in light of April being Autism Awareness Month, and from DRRI, Disability Rights Rhode Island. And maybe we'll have a presenter from RIPEN, all courtesy of Ms. Morell and her staff's hard work. The meeting was adjourned at 6:59 p.m.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kapiskas. Any questions, comments for her? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the CLAC update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Burke and Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll go into conferences and discussions, and I'll ask Mr. Notoriani to give us the technology facilities update.
Thank you, Chairman. So before you this evening is the Consolidated Technology Facilities Update. The Technology Department continues to work very hard processing work orders, but in addition to that, they currently have just concluded placing charging stations in all of the school classrooms so that when students bring in their Chromebooks and they're not charged, they can charge them in the classroom versus having no device to use. Thanks to Mr. Perrier and his office, the Technology Department dispersed copiers and replaced them partially throughout all the district. And when the next round comes up, Mr. Perrier, I believe we'll be replacing additional ones. But big thank you to Mr. Perrier because we had some older equipment in the district. So that's fantastic news, and we're very grateful. We've also installed televisions in the 9th grade academy at the high school so that they can just have digital displays in that wing, and we'll build it out further from there. Over the last 30 days, as you can see in the report, we've had hundreds of work orders come in. You may notice if you look at the different shades, just to point out to you, blue is fantastic because these things are closed out or resolved. There are some of the other colors that are kind of creeping up, and that's indicative of the fact that we cannot get parts to make repairs. Things are still quite slow in terms of the supply chain. So we have quite a few work orders that are just kind of either held on parts on order or we're waiting for a vendor. And again, that's usually because of either staff shortage with the vendors or parts that we just can't get them. Moving on, the Technology Data Department has been working on the March 1st snapshot report, the RIDE portal data, electronic records for Easy IEP, and the textbook collection. And I'd like to say thank you both to the data staff, but also to my colleagues on the admin team, Dr. Holt, Mrs. Morell, well, the entire team that's here, everyone here present is working very hard to make sure that our data is accurate. It's for the first time, I think we've got a really good job, almost perfect without any errors, which is very hard to do, but it's a team effort and everyone should really be thanked. I'm grateful for all their help. Moving on to facilities, the facility staff also has been working very hard. When I wrote this report, we had 5 vacancies, but we're actually down to 2 now, which I'm thankful to the HR department for working with us to get staff in. The facility staff renovated the former ELO office at the high school and created an assistant principal suite as part of an effort to push administration out into the buildings. Dr. McGee's making an effort to make sure we have administrators not just in the main office, but the high school, getting them out on the floors, interacting with students, being much more available versus having to go to the office. So that's one project they completed. The nurse's office at the high school, there were some renovations done there. That was completed. And I apologize, there's an error on here from the formatting from above. So that's last thing about records for Easy IEPs from above. Below is a graph about work orders for facilities. The facilities work orders are slightly different than technology, but as you can see, it's been a little slower in terms of work orders, and I think that's indicative of the fact that they have been trying to play catch up with many different projects in the district, and they will get back to these. The last item on here is the school resource officer program. We meet with the resource officers bi-weekly. We had our meeting this morning, as a matter of fact. We did discuss the traffic flow. We're going to continue to visit campuses. So for the month of March, we're going to visit Citizens Pothier campus, the high school, and Vernon Elementary School. We've gotten around to Vernon. We've had a few other schools that we've been visiting, looking at the parking. But we did promise the staff at Vernon that we would look at the traffic flow there and see what we could do with the school resource officers. So we'll be doing that later in the month and then working with the staff to see what we can, and the administration there to improve things. And then our SRO started the conversation this morning, to talk about what plans they would work on with students that participate in the summer programs. So that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Notoriani. Let me ask you something. Has there been any issues that the SROs have brought forward to you or to you, Dr. McGee? Any issues they've noted during the year, or at least in the last couple of months? Any problems?
I wouldn't say anything.
I know of any. You're just checking.
I wouldn't say anything of significance. They're a very proactive group. I think they're an asset to the district. And, things from here time to time, nothing of major significance, I would say, other than events that the committee's been made aware of publicly here
Sure.
at these meetings. Aside from that, I think they work well with our staff and our students. And again, I would emphasize they're an asset to the district.
Let me ask you something else. On the display televisions for the academy, the ninth grade academy, how many televisions, and do you also have them for the other grades, 10th, 11th, 12th? I know you've highlighted that here, and I'm just wondering why.
So those are the newest ones to install. We placed televisions through key areas throughout the high school, Times Square, outside the cafeteria, in the cafeteria, to get digital messaging out to the students. It's easy when they're passing. This year, there's been a focus on the ninth grade academy, an additional effort there in building that program. And so we figured that we would start with them, but we are going to continue to add digital displays. They're more or less TVs. That one's off this evening, but they're slightly smaller than the one that's on the wall over there. But we'll continue to put them up throughout the high school so that wherever you go, messaging can be pushed out immediately, whether it's, a school event or something of importance, college application deadlines, whatnot, scholarship opportunities, schedule for the day.
Thank you. Any other folks? Any questions for Mr. Notoriani? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the technology facilities update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we'll go into new business since we have no unfinished business. First item is a discussion on time limit decorum for public good and welfare and school committee meetings. I'll turn it over to you, Vice Chair Burke and Mrs. Kapiskas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to talk about citizen good and welfare. Citizen good and welfare is an important part of the agenda school committee meetings. We saw an example of that tonight, how significant that is to allow our students of our various schools to come and to make presentations to the school committee. Generally, citizen good and welfare provides the opportunity for the public to address the school committee. It is the opportunity for parents, teachers, students, and citizens of the city to raise concerns, offer suggestions, or convey pertinent information to help the school committee complete its responsibilities to develop and to ensure the best educational policies for the students of Woonsocket. However, citizens' good and welfare is not the place for extended speeches, lengthy political discourses, or loud, angry, and threatening words towards the school committee members. In the committee's present bylaws, a time limit of 5 minutes to speak is described in a section of the bylaws that deals only with the opportunity for a member of the public to speak to the committee as an agenda item and published in the agenda. At present, there is no time constraint for speaking to the committee in the listed good and welfare section of the agenda. At the next policy committee meeting, which is tomorrow, I will propose that a time limit of 5 minutes also be added to the bylaws for when someone wishes to address the committee in the good and welfare section for the agenda. Present bylaws, though, do spell out how a person shall address the school committee. And I am now going to read directly from the bylaws, section 18, which states, each person addressing the committee shall give his name and address. He shall address his remarks to the committee as a whole rather than to any particular committee member, and he shall at no time engage in any personally offensive or abusive remarks. The presiding officer shall call any speaker to order who violates this section. Any person who disturbs the peace of the committee, makes impertinent or slanderous remarks, or conducts himself in a boisterous manner while addressing the committee shall forthwith be barred by the presiding officer. At the last school committee meeting, there was no decorum, and everything that was spelled out on how not to act was indeed the way some of the speakers acted. At one point, and this is what really has made me very angry, at one point, the committee was even verbally threatened by one of the speakers. In the future, more control needs to be enforced to call to order any speaker addressing the committee in, quote, personally offensive and abusive remarks. And I finish by saying, as a school committee, we are an elected agency of the civil body of government of this city. And as such, our meetings should mirror the civility of order necessary to good functioning of society. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well said. Any committee member have any additional comments? Mrs. Kepiscus?
I do. I mimic and agree and ditto everything Mr. Burke so eloquently spoke about. I freely admit, as a person who's typically very well prepared for school committee meetings with a written speech to give as to each agenda item that I'm intending to address, I don't have one this time. I'm still too angry, upset, and disturbed by what occurred at the last meeting and what didn't occur at the last meeting to prepare such a speech. And I'm ashamed to admit that I let my emotions get the better of me. But the fact that we were abused, ridiculed, threatened, and nothing was done to rein in the speakers angered me tremendously. I think that more should have been done to call that meeting back to order. I even turned and asked that the meeting be called back to order, and nothing happened. And that was very disappointing to me because I felt a complete lack of support from the leadership of this committee. And I'm not afraid to say that out loud. I didn't prepare anything, but that's what I have to add.
Anyone else?
I just have one question. So I understand that we want like a little bit more order, and I agree with that in the respect, but I mean, we can't really keep people from their opinions.
If they threatened us, we can keep them from their opinions.
Oh, threatening, yeah, no, but I'm saying like other states. Okay.
Opinions are fine, but what happened last time was, as Vice Chair Brooks said and Mrs. Kepiscus said, it was out of control. And frankly, that's on me. I'm the leadership of the committee, and I let it go on because frankly, I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear what they had to say. Frankly, at the end of the day, when you listen to it, it went overboard. There was no question about that. The committee was insulted. It was threatened, and a lot of negatives. And what was really interesting, not interesting, but what was almost ironic, is that the comments they made was well before we even took a vote on the issue. And basically, in terms of the issue itself, we decided as a committee to make mask wearing optional, which is exactly what they wanted done. But they certainly could have just spoken about it, made their points, and sat down. They did not. That's my fault. And it will not occur again in the future. So I apologize to you, Mrs. Kapiskas and Vice Chair Burke, and to you, Mrs. Costa, to you, Dr. McGee, and Mr. Leclerc,
He wasn't here.
member of the committee.
He is.
Member of the committee, and to all of you sitting out there. It was horrific, and hopefully this will never happen again. Any other thoughts on this matter? Next, on new business, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the 2022-2023 school year calendar. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. I'll turn it over to Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. So before you, you have the proposed 2022-23 academic year calendar for the Woonsocket Education Department. The calendar itself is broken down by on the left-hand side the calendar of each month. At the bottom, it's listed for the middle and high school because they use quarters. They have 4 quarters. The dates of those quarters are listed there. To the right of that are the elementary trimesters. And then if you go to the right side of the page, there are the events that will occur during the course of the school year, such as mostly no school listings, as well as, the first day of school, the high school graduation, the last day of school. Below that, there are some key, there's a color-coded section which lists in addition to school committee meetings, professional development days for students, which the district, this year we had one additional professional development day, statewide professional development day. It's actually going to be occurring. There are 2, I should say, the 14th of March and then the 11th of May next year. We're not planning on having any of those statewide PD days. We have our own 2 PD days, which we have in the beginning of the school year, the 29th and the 30th, which is the 29th is our orientation for teachers and staff. So here's the calendar. Be happy to answer any questions any committee members may have at this time.
Vice Chair Burke.
Thank you. Dr. McGee, is this the calendar put out by RIDE?
So this calendar is a combination of the suggestions that RIDE provides to school districts. So that is the calendar that RIDE provides has designated February and April vacation weeks here. Beyond that, the rest is really sort of left up to the districts, and districts can actually veer off of what RIDE proposes. So, for example, there are some districts that for the April vacation elected to have vacation the week of the 17th. I chose the week of the 10th because it follows Good Friday, and Good Friday being a no school day in the district. Beyond that, it really is up to the individual districts. RIDE they also provided 4 professional development days next year. However, the difference between next year's proposed PD days and this year's proposed PD days is for this year, those can be DL days. Next year, they have to be added on to the school calendar. So they'd have to be added on to the 180 days for the students. So I chose not to do that because if you look at the June last day of school is scheduled for the 20th, and as it is, that's late in June, and I don't want to go to the last week of June because if we have, as we had a couple of snow days this year, if we have snow days that we have to add on, then we're looking at bumping up to July. And nobody wants that.
Just follow up on it. So April vacation, you made a decision to do it the 10th to the, does that gel with other schools in the
That-
district?
so
is it
that's-
going to prevent a problem?
That's a
for
really good question.
teachers and their
Yeah.
kids and
That's a great question. So it, and we actually had a meeting, the Superintendent's Association a week ago. We specifically talked about February and April vacation because some districts are recognizing vacation the week of the 10th, as my proposal is, and other districts are recognizing it on the week of the 17th. And it really is kind of 50-50. There's no consensus. And my input to that conversation a week ago was, if everyone decided to do it on a certain, let's say everyone decided we want to go on the week of the 17th, then I certainly would have, proposed the 17th, because I do want to try to make it as accommodating for staff, because we have a lot of staff, as do many other districts, who have children in other school districts, and if their vacation weeks don't coincide, it makes it challenging for them. So it was really 50-50. Almost half the districts are electing to go the week of the 10th, and almost half are electing to go the week of the 17th. And again, my rationale for that is the 7th being, a holiday, that I would follow I would make the following week the vacation week.
Are the districts that are taking the same week, so they're in our area, or?
I don't
Cumberland, Lincoln,
I don't
Milton
recall.
Field?
I think some are. I think, I don't want to say publicly for sure. I can look into it and get back to you, but I can tell you that it really varied. It wasn't necessarily by geographic location.
just follow up something. You got me thinking here. Number one, I'm surprised Ride allowed that, to be quite honest. And my other question is, graduation June 9th. Is that etched in stone? Graduation is not affected by snow days? Here in
It's not.
Woonsocket?
It's not. Yeah, graduation is not affected by snow days.
It doesn't snow on graduation day.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree with you.
Oh, climate change.
Exactly.
I wish Ride had taken a stand and said, these are the weeks for vacation. They'd make it a lot easier, and they often don't do that. It's a small state. They would just make it a lot easier for districts if they just said, this is the week, because they know that it's going to vary if they don't dictate that. So maybe sometime in the future they will, but unfortunately
They have in the last 2 years.
have not. No.
Ride has demanded
Well, they
vacation weeks, and they wouldn't allow Cumberland and other districts to fly it. Remember? So,
The only thing I'd like to add to the calendar in our discussion is that when it comes time for the awards nights, they are not scheduled for school committee nights, as happened in past years where we couldn't attend because we were here and we missed out. So it's something to remind the principals.
shall.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Joshua, I have a question. Go ahead, Miss.
Mrs. Kapiskas, please.
I noticed there are no snow days listed here. Are we still permitted to have conventional snow days?
So we are. So what's interesting is that you still have traditional snow days, and that's my intent. As I did this year, we had the first 2 days, although it snowed tonight, but thank goodness it's not accumulating, and there is school tomorrow. But the first 2 inclement weather days were snow days, and my rationale for that was, let's not totally throw out the traditional snow days. Let's give at least a couple of them, and then anything beyond that will be DL days. This time around, districts can still do that, but we have to resubmit our DL, our distance learning plan, to RIDE so that they are able to approve it again. It's going to be the same plan that we've submitted to them for the past 2 years, but it's something that we're going to need to do to RIDE, to send that to RIDE.
And is that why you stated snow days don't affect graduation? Because they have in the past.
That's why, yes, because
Gotta be
those
probably 2 days.
because those 2 days won't have an effect. Because I'm looking to do the same thing as this year. Those 2 days will not have an effect on it. You're welcome.
It appeared to many of us that the snow day, that first snow day, the adults enjoyed that day more than the kids. Just from discussing this with parents and teachers and
Rumor has it.
rumor has it. Anyone else? Mrs. Costa?
So I just have a question. So I know that in the past, I'm not sure if Providence still does it, but I know that they had done away with their February vacation in order so that way it doesn't push so far into June. Is that something you've ever considered?
So some districts do that. And what some districts will actually do is they'll have, because that Monday is usually a holiday. So sometimes what they'll do is those that have the PD days built in to their calendar will use Tuesday as a PD day. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday might be vacation days. That's something that not this current school committee explored. So I kind of threw that out to see if there was an appetite. And we had actually, at the time, sent a survey out to families and to staff to see, which they would prefer. And it was interesting because I'm trying to think back to the results of that survey. Families were okay with it, the majority. And I think many staff were not. And I think it was because many districts did recognize that particular week for February vacation. And if they had children in other districts who did recognize it, they just wanted to sort of have their vacation week for those weeks to coincide. But it is something we considered in the past. What it also does is it also gives our maintenance and custodial department an opportunity to really sort of go through the buildings, because it's sort of the middle of winter, to really do sort of a deep cleaning, with the floors and everything. And so that's also weighed into the decision as well.
Anyone else? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus, Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
And I don't think we have any other items on our agenda, so I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:56 PM. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.